Hi friends, it's Tracy from the Financial Freedom Diary, and today we're going to talk about budgeting when you don't have enough money in this sip and serve. I wanted to start out with this because this is something that is near and dear to me. A lot of times when I'm talking to people in my personal life, this is where we are. This is what we're talking about, and it's actually an area that I actually understand the most because I've been there, done that. I know the feelings. It don't feel good at all, regardless of what people think. Some people think that, oh, you're in the situation you're in because you were doing reckless things. You were at the club, buying hair weave, doing this, doing that, instead of paying your bills. No, that is not true. Sometimes life deals out a series of unfortunate events. And if you don't have a plan and you're just in survival mode, you can make bad decisions but not understand that's a bad decision until you have to actually deal with that over the long run. And so I hope that makes sense. So that's why I wanted to start here, because I was one of those people where I had more expenses than I had income. And you guys know my debt was like 1.89 or 1.9 times my income. So it was very, very tight. This was a very emotional time for me to go through. And so this is why I want to make this video in my sip and serve. So as a warning, I want to let you guys know I am thirsty today. And so I do have some water off to the side and I may need a drink. Hopefully I can last and not do that. So let's get started. Okay, so number one, the first thing you want to do is prioritize your expenses. If you're following the Dave Ramsey program, there's this baby step called Baby Step Zero. He always calls it getting current, but his community calls it Baby Step Zero. During this time, you're prioritizing your expenses and you're making sure you can cover your basics. Okay, this was one of my biggest problems. Is whoever is the last person screaming at me for something, that's the first person I take care of, and then I forget about those things that are not in my face until it's in my face, and then I'm freaking out. So, if you're like that, raise your hand because it is hard. And so he talks about the four walls. Now, I heard the four walls and I thought the four walls were four things. And so I was a little bit confused because I am a very literal person. And so it was like, the four walls ain't four things when I heard him say it over and over and over again, because I used to listen to this podcast every single day while I was in this baby step zero phase. I had to listen to it. It was the only thing that kept me going. So, prioritize your expenses. These are the things that are important. One, food. You got to eat. You may not need to have everything come from the most expensive store in your town, but you do have to eat. You got to sustain yourself and your family. You got to make sure everybody receives proper nutrition. This does not include, to me, it does not include eating out at restaurants. And this is the hardest habit to break. It is like my hardest habit to break too. But while I was going through this phase, I gave it up just so I could keep my eye on the prize and get to the point where I was current and I wasn't worried all the time. The second thing is utilities. Got to make sure you pay utilities. You need lights, you need water, you need gas, electricity, you need all those things. Also, in my utilities, I include my internet. So people may say, you don't need no internet. I do need my internet because I sometimes work from home. And also, if let's say it's icy out and I can't get to work, I am expected to work from home. I'm also on call sometimes. And if I got to do my rotation, I have to be able to log in and resolve whatever the issues are. So in my utility bucket, I put my internet. What I didn't need was cable, because at that time, nobody in my house was actually even watching the TV. It was just there. I had the package, I would have it playing, but nobody was watching it. So it was one of the first expenses I had no problems with cutting that off. Also, your rent. You got to have a roof over your head. And so this is rent and mortgage. I know some people get themselves in a pickle with mortgages and they take out home loans where it's way more than what they need. And you need to consult Dave Ramsey for that, because I honestly don't know. I don't have a mortgage, I only have rent. And so I'm not going to speak into a situation that I don't know anything about. And so you may also be wondering, why would you put utilities over the rent? Think about it. It likes to get cut off first before you get put out. It just is what it is. So you want to make sure that you take care of that and then take care of that. There's not much distance in between there. Like, I can just play with the rent for another month. I wouldn't do that, but don't do that, please. It is item number 3. The next thing is transportation. And I apologize if you see me looking down, it's for because I have my notes right here. Um, Transportation. For me, I had to put my car note as a priority because I share my vehicle with my sons. They work at night, I work in the daytime, and so I need to have a car that works, that's reliable. You guys know from my debt story that the first time I created my budget and I put all my money into all the bills, all the things, my car broke down that night on my son while he was trying to get home from work. So I learned a lesson. That's also why I have a car maintenance fund. It's because I learned a very big lesson. Also, clothing. You want to make sure you have clean clothes, okay? Sometimes if you have kids and they're in that phase where they're growing a lot, they're going to outgrow some stuff. You got to have some money to take care of that. That basic need is not about buying Jordans or this or that. I don't even know the name of shoes because it's not my Jewish, it's not my thing. But you don't need the latest and greatest. You get some off season for them, especially if they're teenagers, because you are trying to keep your kids from being bullied at school. Yeah, teenagers. Ugh. Mm, the dark side is what I call that. But also, yeah, taking care of their clothes, because if they're small, you can take them to consignment stores, you can go to Goodwill, you can do more things when they're smaller versus when they're older. So if you got teenagers, hey, I understand. It is very, very difficult with them. The last thing I want to add that I did not hear Dave Ramsey mention was medication. Now, it's easy for me to try to stretch not paying for my medication because I don't have anything really, really severe that's going to happen. I can go and buy everything I need over the counter. Now, I do know that some people do not prioritize their physical health or their emotional health and mental health. They do not prioritize themselves. And so they'll go out and do all the things for their kids and they'll forget about themselves. Or their mindset is, if I do this for my kid today, my kids are going to take care of me tomorrow. And they might not be true. They might not have the finances to do so. You don't know. So it's best to make sure you take care of your physical health. Okay. And I would tell you guys a short story. Some years ago, I had a friend who, I still have her, she's still a friend, but she kept coming to work having these breakdowns. I wasn't quite understanding because she would get hyper, hyper, hyper paranoid about everything, and that wouldn't be the truth. And so she was always reacting, and behavior was very erratic. And I heard her one day, I come in earlier and she's like flipping out on the phone with the health insurance company because her medication is going to cost X and she doesn't have enough to pay for it. And I'm just like, what the heck? Now, I knew from us talking about our kids, she had just bought her kids some very expensive boots. And so I'm like, why would you get the boots when you need your medication? And as a parent, I could tell that she was very concerned what other people thought and what they thought about her daughter too. So she lived to impress people. And it was very sad to see. And it's actually something I see her dealing with even to this day. We work on budgets and it's a thing. It's a thing I constantly hammer in with her. You got to take care of yourself. If you can't go to work, who's paying her college tuition? You know what I'm saying? If you can't go to work, who's paying her car note? If you can't go to work, who's paying her rent? Those are the questions you have to ask yourself before you decide to. I understand putting your kids first, but that does not mean you put their wants before the needs of the household, and that even includes yourself. And I'm going to end my rant on that because watching that and seeing somebody deal with that, it's kind of frustrating for me to see people who don't understand you got to take care of yourself. And also, while you're doing this and you're prioritizing your expenses and you're trying to take care of those that the essentials and the four walls, talk to your kids. Now, I ain't saying stress your kids out. I'm not saying that at all. I was, I guess, lucky because my oldest was 21, my youngest was 17, and I told them what I was going through. I let them see how much income I brought in, and of course they got the big eyes, and they're just like, ooh. Except they didn't do ooh, but you could see like, ooh, you make money. But then I showed them my debt, and the total was $127,000, over $127,000, like 1.89 times my income in debt. That was a very sobering moment for everybody. And the thing we had to do was we had to get on one accord. We had to be on the same page. They had to understand, um, I can buy potato chips, but I ain't buying them every week. I can't get you all the name brand things that you like, but I can get you something just as good. And then we sat down and we meal planned. Our first meal plan was, I called it Cheap Eats. It's actually written on one of my journals. It was called Cheap Eats. How can I feed them something that they liked that would have leftovers for us, and I could take some to work for my lunch? That's how it all started. What stores could I go to? And they're better shoppers than I am. And so you guys know I take them with me into the store to make sure I'm not just hanging out at the ice cream section getting 3 tubs of ice cream for one person, which is my youngest son. But like doing all the things. And when they both started working, their snacks I pushed off onto them. Because if you got boys, they eat a lot. I think girls eat a lot too, but boys eat a lot all the time. And so I pushed that to them. And also the cost of their cell phone bills, I pushed that onto them. They treat it just like a bill. We don't have any problems. I've never had to say to my sons, um, please give me your money for your thing of the cell phones. And I think because they really think I'm a little bit touched. Well, they know that I'm only gonna play with them so much, and then boom, the hammer drops. So they know that. So they always come through with what they're supposed to do, and I always let them know before, because as a parent, that was very hard when you have adult children living in your home, setting those boundaries, because they're growing from being young men to being men. And so I had to draw the line and say, here it is. And so that is the prioritizing your expenses. But please note the communication with the household. I ain't saying tell a 3-year-old about all your problems. I ain't saying tell a 10-year-old all your problems. 3-year-olds will go out and put all your business in the street. Don't tell them. Don't tell them to put all your business in the street. Really. Seriously. I've had some 3-year-olds tell me some things I'm quite sure their mama didn't want them to say. So the next thing is, now that we've categorized and prioritized our essentials, now let's get to, I shouldn't call them non-essentials. I should just call them other expenses, because depending on your child, your family, what you have going on, this can be a necessary part of things you have to pay out once a year, maybe only during the school year or something like that. So haircuts. My very first budget, I forgot about my youngest son's haircut. I didn't have to worry about my oldest son because he took care of his own haircuts. But my youngest son, I had totally forgot. Allowances. I forgot about that. And in my household, an allowance is not something that they ever were given. It was something that they actually earned. And so allowance does not mean welfare. Words only have the power that we give them. The words have the meaning that we give them. So if you raise your kid to work for their allowance, they do not think that that's welfare. So you don't have to change the word because somebody else equates allowance with welfare. Also, you want to consider like the school expenses and stuff like that. Do you have anything like that coming up that you've already promised your kid you're going to do? Because I do believe that, promises you make to your kid and just like your debts, they're the same. Don't make promises you ain't going to keep. Because you never know how things in life are going to work out. So even if your intentions are good, something else could come up and it makes it hard on a kid to understand what's going on. So it's better not to make those promises at in the beginning. I know young people hate to hear we'll see, but we'll see is better than a lie. That's the way I look at it. But in the school expenses, you have their club dues, their field trips, their lunches, fundraisers, their clothing that may be related to something about the school. At my son's school, their high school used to sell like hoodies. They always had to have the new hoodie that it came out. So that was one of the things that we bought. It was a means of the school raising money as part of their fundraisers and stuff like that. And now away from the children, let's get back to ourselves. Turn that mirror on us and look at yourself. How many dues do you have for things that you never even show up to? I used to have a bunch. And it was one of those things because I had a problem saying no to people. And so I would, excuse me, my voice is going out, but I would sign myself up for things and then I couldn't make it or I didn't really want to do it. And so saying no was something I had to really learn and really work on to save my budget. And so right off the bat, I could cut those expenses out. So when the year came up, I wasn't going to do it. I wasn't going to be able to do it, but still be able to take care of everything else that I had going on. And I'm trying to think of some other expenses that may fit in here, but this is everything that's outside of your normal. Everything, because I think, like, for me, my gym membership was something, because it was like you get on the treadmill, go to the freaking park. There's a park like a big block over that if I walk to the park, I actually got the same workout. And if I just walk around the other block, I get the same workout. Or jog the block outside. It's right there. Also, I have a patio, so I can jump rope and do things there. I can do it in my living room. I was just like, I was wasting a lot of money on the things that I needed or I thought I needed or other people told me that I needed. So I had to be very careful here and the other expenses that had seeped into my budget, but I wasn't even really using. The last thing we have are the debts. Here's where I had trouble because I had taken care of everything else and then I'm gonna get to my debts, and then I had more debts than I had money that was left in my budget. And so I had to figure something out. And I just said in the other expenses, when you're trying to figure out if you're going to be able to afford your kid going to a certain class or doing this or doing that, um, make more than one budget. That's what I had to do because it was like, oh Lord, I ain't got enough money. I gotta call these people and they're gonna go off on me. I gotta figure out how am I gonna make it. So the first thing I did was I looked at my debts and I said, what have I already made an arrangement for, or it's at a very low amount that I can still cover. And then I just list those things out. So like you guys know that my student loans are on a income driven repayment plan. And so I'm not paying the full amount. So they were already in a bucket that said, okay, You're doing what you can do. You've already worked this out with them. That deal is solid. It's good for a year. The next thing I did was I said, okay, what about all the others? Then I looked at my credit card debt and I was like, okay, the credit cards and stuff, some of them were really, really low, like 20 something dollars a month. And so I felt like, there ain't nothing else I can do here. And so I had some medical debt, my son's medical debt, personal loan, which was because of a surgery that I went and had, and another high interest personal loan for my car to get my car fixed. That broke down after my first budget. The stupid that I've done, the stupid things that I've done. And so when I started sorting everything out, and I just said, okay, these are the guys I'm going to call. This list right here. These are the ones, they're already at their lowest. I'm doing good. I'm going to leave them alone. And I have enough money to cover all of them. Now I have this debt over here. I don't have enough money. So terrified at this point. Terrified, overwhelmed, not knowing what to do. So the next thing I did was I was like, you got to call some people. And you guys know I don't like calling people and saying, hey, I can't afford this. But I learned a lot while I was doing that. I found that with medical debt and with the personal loans, they were willing to work with me. But when I called, I knew what I could afford to pay and when that number was going to change. And I would have more money to give to them. I knew that right up front. I knew if I took care of those small um, medical debts that I had, if I took care of those first, those two little payments, I could put on something else and I could spread it out. Now, I found that, like the personal loans were easy for me to work with, the medical debt was easy for me to work with, but the ones I found that were difficult was credit card debt was difficult. Now, some of my credit cards I didn't have to call because, like for Target Red Card, I think my minimum payment was like $25 a month, so there was no reason for me to call them. I could cover that. And I'm trying to think. Walmart. I had a Walmart charge card, which I don't even know why I had a Walmart charge card because if you have an emergency, Walmart's not towing my car. Some of the logic that I used to take out credit card debt, I don't know what I was thinking. But anywho, what I wasn't paying attention to was even though I had an Amazon charge card, I had a Walmart charge card. I decided to call Walmart to lower it to about the same payment as what my Amazon was. I had been paying Amazon for years, and so I was fine there, but it was the same bank. And because I never really paid attention to the details, I was a little clueless. When I called them, not not nice. I didn't get out of character. I told them what I could do. It wasn't good enough. I said, thank you for your time. Boop, and we done. What happened was they ended up closing my Amazon account. So I couldn't add any new charges to Amazon, even though I was at a point where I wasn't going to do that. That was done. And so that was a thing. And I was just like, oh, good. Amazon, you're right over here with them. Now, that allows me to move something else over here. And you get different results from different companies. And I do want to warn you that credit cards can be touch and go. But a lot of them, I found that because I knew when I would be able to make the minimums, or if I just needed move the date, they were willing to work with me because I had a beginning and end in mind. Some companies, not so much. Now, I did want to say as a side story, I was working with a friend and she has way more credit card debt than I had. And when she went to call her credit card companies, she went through it with them. And so I did want to put that out there that even though your best intentions are you are going to pay them and when you'll be able to up the amount that you can pay them back to your minimum. Some of them may not work with you. They may close your account. They may send it to collections. They may do all the things. You cannot control what they do, but you can control how you respond, and you can live up to what you said you were going to do. Because even with the Walmart charge card, once I got to that point and I paid off that high interest loan that I had, that went to fix my car that eventually died anyway. Excuse me. Once I did that, I went right after that Walmart credit card, paid it off in a couple of months, went after the Amazon, paid it off right afterward. Everything I told them I was going to do, I did that. So I'm not a person who's going to say, girl, just run up as much debt as you want to, do whatever you want to. That is not my thing. I don't believe in taking out credit and then not paying it and doing things like that intentionally. Sometimes life puts you in a place where you can't. And sometimes the people over the phone, when you have a plan, they will work with you. And that's the good part, is understanding that, hey, this person understands where I'm coming from, and they will work with you, because at the end of the day, that company's just trying to get their money. That's it. That's it. That's all. They don't really care about what got you there. When are you going to give them their money? That's really what they're after. But I did want to put that out there as a caveat to let you all know that sometimes your best intentions may not be well received on the other end. Just don't lose your cool, because remember this: your rent is paid, you got food, you got lights, you got utilities. You can still work on finding another job if you need to, some kind of side hustle, because you guys know that when I'm not studying for an exam, something to help me at my full-time job, that I am merchandising out there all the time. No, it doesn't pay me what I make at my full-time job, but because I did that from the moment that I started, the moment I found that it was even available to me, um, that's what paid for and got me out of debt quicker. I was soon, not soon, but I was, I quickly realized what financial peace meant, even though I was nowhere near it. Even though I was nowhere near it. I had been under that kind of stress for so long in my life that I didn't even know what it was like to not be in that place. I had no clue. So once I got there, I was current on everything. I was making the payments to everybody. Then I could say, well, I do want to keep my PMI membership. Let me put that in my budget. I do want this. Let me put this back in my budget. I'm gonna give myself some money. And so now you may be wondering, time frame. How long did it take you? So for me, that's a very interesting question. I would want to say it probably took me 2 to 3 months. The first month was the hardest. And I think it took me 2 to 3 months because, one, I was adjusting to budgeting and tracking all of my expenses. Two, I was changing my behavior. And three, I was trying to get current and save my $1,000 at the same time, which you're not supposed to. You're supposed to just focus on one. And so I drug it out because I want to be doing all the things. And it didn't work out that well for me. Never does. But anywho, but yeah, it took me that long because I didn't focus in on the one thing. But I did learn a lot as I was going through it, because imagine the very first month, I'm not making the same. By the end of that month, I had learned some things. So I wasn't making the same mistakes. The end of the second month, I wasn't making the mistakes I was making the first month. And so over time, I got to learn how to budget my money, what to do, how to take care of everything that I needed to have done. And I also understood what was a priority and what was not. That was very hard for me to learn. And so I hope this is helpful for you guys. If there's anything else that I forgot. And if you've been through this phase and you'd like to contribute below, please include that below. I'll make sure that I put timestamps on when I start the different categories. And also remember during this whole thing, communicate. When I started going through the Dave Ramsey program, I actually was talking to my manager in one of my one-on-ones, and I was telling him, what I had read, and so I wasn't eating out as much, and so I was doing all these things. And he helped me a lot because, I do the on call. When we do on call, we get PTO. And he actually was like, "Do you want to get paid for it?" He was like, "Just, I'll take care of it." And I put in the stuff and he took care of it because I actually had the project work that prevented me from really taking off that much. But, it was good to have somebody that was in my corner that was willing to help me because I couldn't get another job. I couldn't. And I did try to find another full-time job and I could not find one that would hire me. I think a lot of people thought I was joking. I'm like, who gonna come here and put an application as a joke? Not me. So, but anyway, I hope this helps you all understand that if you are in this point where you're behind in your bills, your basics, and your full walls, that is not forever. But you do have to do something radical. You do have to just not make it worse. You do have to focus in and make sure you take care of the essentials first. And you have to prioritize things. And I think doing that, I slept. I was going to work and I wasn't worried anymore. And I hope that that helps you and get you to understand that, when you prioritize things and you put what's really first, everything else is not sucking it out. And then you come back and say, hey, because it's always for a short period of time that you got to go through that. Now, my debt is a whole nother thing, but you guys know I'm doing as much as I can, as fast as I can, with what I have. I still make a little bit of room for myself. And we'll talk about sinking funds and where that fit in later. But when I was getting current, sinking funds was not a part of the equation. It was about getting current, staying current, and never, ever, ever overdrafting my checking account again. Not paying the bank for my inability to plan. That was the goal. It's actually written in my planner, not doing it. So you guys have a super fantastic morning, afternoon, and evening. And I'm quite sure this is a very long video, and I apologize up front, but this is something that's been sitting with me for a very long time. And you guys have a great one. And I will talk to y'all later. Bye.